I used to think love was built on patience, that if I stayed quiet long enough, if I worked hard enough, if I forgave more than I should, he'd finally see my worth. But love isn't built on endurance. It's built on respect. And the day I realized my husband had neither for me, something inside me shifted forever. Devin was everything the world called successful: sharp suits, loud laughter, expensive wine, and a heart that glittered like fool's gold. To everyone else, he was the dream. To me, he was the lesson I never wanted to learn. I watched him drift away, one lie at a time, as if my silence made me invisible. But what he didn't know was that every quiet night I spent alone, every insult he threw, every betrayal he believed I wouldn't notice, I was learning, watching, calculating. I wasn't planning revenge. I was building freedom, piece by piece, signature by signature, until the cage he built for me became the blueprint of his own collapse. The day I found out about Tiffany, the woman he paraded around like a prize, I didn't cry. I simply understood who I had been living with. A man who valued attention more than love. A man who believed power meant control. And from that moment I decided if he wanted a game I would play. But by the rules of intelligence, not emotion. I would no longer fight for him. I would fight for me. I began living two lives. In one I was still the quiet wife, polite, dependable, invisible. I cooked his meals, smiled for his friends, pretended not to notice the lipstick stains on his collar. In the other, I became my own savior. Every document he carelessly left on the counter, every deal he bragged about at dinner, I studied them all. I learned the language of contracts, the rhythm of money, and the hidden cracks in his empire. He thought I was naive because I didn't shout. But silence is not weakness, it's strategy. While he slept beside me, dreaming of other women and bigger deals, I was preparing my exit, one paper, one signature, one quiet decision at a time. When the moment came, I didn't scream. I didn't beg. I simply acted. The day the bank sent him the letter, the one confirming my application to restructure our mortgage and divide the assets, that was the day he finally realized the truth. I had beaten him at his own game. He thought he owned everything, the condo, the money, even my peace. But I had learned something powerful, that a woman who has nothing left to lose is the most dangerous kind of strategist. I didn't destroy him out of spite. I did it because I refused to let him keep destroying me. He called it betrayal, called it balance. And as his world began to collapse, his job, his image, his expensive illusion of control, I felt nothing but clarity. The man who mocked my quiet strength was now undone by his own noise. When I heard that Devin had been fired, I didn't celebrate. I simply sat by the window of my new apartment, the city lights reflecting on the glass, and exhaled the years I had been holding my breath. For the first time, I wasn't reacting to him. I was creating something of my own. He called me again and again, desperate, broken, searching for the comfort he once took for granted. But comfort is not a debt. And love is not charity. I used to believe that people fall apart because of heartbreak. But the truth is, people fall apart because of the weight of their own lies. Devin wasn't just losing a job. He was losing the false world he had built around himself. He turned to Tiffany, his shining escape. I could almost imagine the phone in his shaking hands, the panic in his voice, the cold rejection on the other end. Because I knew her type. She didn't love him. She loved the version of him success had painted. The moment that paint peeled away, so did she. And that, I suppose, was poetic justice. I didn't need to lift a finger. His own vanity did the work for me. All I did was let the truth breathe. That's the thing about betrayal. It always comes full circle. And when it does, it no longer needs revenge. It simply reveals who people really are. For years, I had been the one silently breaking. Now, I watched as he finally tasted the silence he once forced me to swallow. Freedom didn't arrive with fireworks. It came quietly, like dawn after a sleepless night. I remember waking up in my small rented room, sunlight slipping through the curtains, and realizing no one could lie to me anymore. No one could use my love as a weapon. I started rebuilding, not with wealth but with purpose. Every morning I studied, I planned, I worked. I learned how to stand on my own feet, how to turn pain into structure, heartbreak into direction. And slowly I began to see that strength isn't loud. It's steady. It's the courage to keep going even when no one claps for you. While Devin stumbled deeper into his own downfall, I was quietly rising. He was chasing illusions. I was discovering substance. He wanted admiration, I wanted peace. And that difference changed everything. Sometimes I'd think about how he looked at me back then, as if I were a background character in his grand story. Now I was the author, writing my own chapters with calm, deliberate hands. When his lawyer called, I didn't flinch. I listened to every word, and when the man said, "She feels absolutely nothing for you," I smiled faintly. Because it was true. There was no hatred left in me. Only clarity. And perhaps a touch of gratitude, because without his betrayal, I might never have met the stronger woman I was becoming. When I finally heard his voice again, it sounded smaller. Gone was the arrogance that once filled every room he entered. Now there was just emptiness, the hollow echo of a man who had lost not only his wealth, but his sense of who he was. He tried to provoke me, searching for anger, for some sign that I still cared. But there was nothing left to give him. No tears, no fury, no warmth. Just stillness. I remember saying quietly, "Devin, your suffering isn't my responsibility anymore." It was the most powerful sentence I had ever spoken. He had to face the consequences of his own reflection, the lies, the manipulation, the arrogance that had built his world and then devoured it. He wasn't a villain in my story anymore. He was simply a man standing in the ruins of his own pride. I thought about all the nights I'd spent wondering why I wasn't enough, and realized it was never about me. Some people don't destroy you because they hate you. They do it because they hate themselves. From my new balcony, I could see the city stretch endlessly, bright, alive, full of promise. That view became my symbol of peace. It wasn't luxury. It was freedom. And in that freedom I found something I never expected. Compassion. Not for him, but for myself, for the woman who survived it all without losing her soul. In the quiet that followed, I began to rebuild. Not with money, not with revenge, but with something far stronger, dignity. Every morning I woke up to a room filled with sunlight instead of fear. I brewed coffee in silence, and that silence, the same silence that once terrified me, now felt sacred. There were no more raised voices, no manipulation, no walking on eggshells. Just me breathing freely. It's strange how peace feels foreign after years of chaos. I had to relearn it, to trust calmness again. Sometimes I'd pass by the old office building where Devin used to hold his grand meetings, and I'd smile faintly. He used to tell me I was too small to understand big things. But in the end, it wasn't his business empire that survived, it was my integrity. I learned that intelligence isn't in the noise of confidence. It's in quiet precision, in doing what's right even when no one's watching. I stopped needing to prove anything. My worth wasn't in being someone's wife or someone's prize. It was in being myself, unshaken and whole. And in that truth, I found more power than any material success could ever give. I heard rumors about him, of course. Devin working at a warehouse, moving boxes under fluorescent lights. His hands once soft from comfort, now rough from labor. There's a certain poetry in that, poetic justice, maybe. But I didn't gloat. Not once. Because this was never about revenge anymore. It was about balance. About the universe gently setting things right. He was finally learning what humility feels like. What it means to build something honest from the ground up. The same ground he once believed he stood above. Sometimes I wondered if he thought about me, if he remembered the woman he underestimated, the one who stood by him through every lie, every betrayal, until she finally chose herself. Maybe he does. Maybe he doesn't. But either way, it no longer mattered. I wasn't defined by what he took from me. I was defined by what I refused to lose. My self-respect, my empathy, and my quiet strength. And that, I realized, was the real victory. Now, when I look back at everything, the pain, the deception, the fall, I see it differently. It wasn't the end of my story. It was my awakening. Because sometimes, life has to shatter you just enough to let the truth shine through the cracks. And through mine, I saw the woman I was always meant to be: strong, calm, unbreakable. If you've ever been betrayed, abandoned, or made to feel small, remember this. They didn't destroy you. They revealed you. They showed you what you will never tolerate again, what you deserve, and what strength truly means. Devin lost everything, but I gained myself. And that's the kind of wealth no one can take away. So if you're listening now, standing at your own crossroads, broken but breathing, don't chase closure. Don't chase validation. Chase peace. Because peace isn't the absence of pain. It's the quiet knowing that you survived it, and you're still here. That's your victory. That's your freedom. And just like me, one day you'll look at the ruins and smile. Sometimes late at night, I still think about the woman I used to be, the one who kept apologizing for his mistakes, who believed love meant endurance instead of respect. I remember her tears on the kitchen floor, her shaking hands signing divorce papers, her heart breaking quietly while he never noticed. And I wish I could reach back in time and tell her, you will survive this. You will not just heal, you will rise. Because every wound I carried became a lesson. Every betrayal became a mirror. And every loss carved out space for something new. For peace, for clarity, for freedom. Healing isn't pretty. It's not poetic most days. It's waking up alone and making coffee for one. It's crying in the shower and showing up at work anyway. It's sitting in silence and choosing not to text the person who destroyed you. It's building yourself back slowly, quietly, until one morning you realize the ache has turned into strength. And that's when you know you've reclaimed your power. When I stood on my new balcony, feeling the sunlight on my face, I didn't think of revenge anymore. I thought of redemption, not his but mine. Because true redemption doesn't come from someone's apology. Comes from the moment you stop needing one. If my story means anything, let it remind you that even the most painful endings can become your rebirth. That no matter how cruelly someone tears your world apart, you still hold the power to rebuild. Stronger, quieter, wiser. Don't rush the process. Don't hide your scars. Because one day those same scars will speak for you. They'll say, I lived through this and I'm still standing. Devin once believed power meant control, money, and status. But the truth is, power was never his. It was always mine, the power to walk away, to rebuild, to forgive without forgetting. And in that choice, I became everything he could never be. So wherever you are listening to this, take a deep breath. Look at everything you've lost and then look at yourself. You're still here. You're still fighting. And that means you've already won. Because the greatest revenge isn't destruction. It's peace. And peace, once you find it, is something no one can ever take from you again. If my story touched something inside you, hold on to this truth. You are not what happened to you. You are what you choose to become after it. So rise, rebuild, and never forget, your calm strength will always be louder than their chaos.